Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Warrior Wellness Podcast, where we break down health, nutrition, wellness, performance, and mindset so you can show us your strongest, most energized self. My name is Morgan Trimper. I'm the Performance Nutrition and Wellness Coordinator at Warrior Ice Arena. And today we're getting into something I hear all the time from athletes, parents, even coaches: nutrition myths. So today we're debunking nutrition myths that are holding you back. And not just the small ones. There are beliefs that are actually holding people back from performing, recovery, and feeling their best. So today we're going to go over 3 different myths. We're going to debunk them, break them down, and really do a deep dive. The first one being the myth that carbs make you gain weight. The second one being all sugar is bad for you. And the third one, that fat is the enemy. So let's get into it. We're going to deep dive into our myth number 1, carbs make you gain weight. Let's start with this big one. So carbs do not necessarily on their own make you gain weight. Weight gain comes from consistently consuming more calories than your body needs over an extended period of time. So that's it. It's not one food, it's not one nutrient, and it's definitely not in one day that you're going to pack on the pounds. Okay, so carbohydrates, what are they for your body? What do they do for your body? And what are some sources here? So carbohydrates is the primary source of energy and fuel for your body, especially for high intensity, high performing athletes, high intensity training. Obviously, going about your day, you need that energy, that fuel to get you through your day, whether you're walking, running errands, whatever your busy day-to-day life looks like. So if you're active, you need carbs, main energy source here. Think of it like the more active you are, the more gas you need in your tank. The further your car drives, the more gas you need to get there. Same thing with your body. The more activity that you're doing throughout the day, the more carbohydrates need to go in to actually give you the energy and fuel to get through those activities. But there's a couple different kinds of carbohydrates, and that matters. Not all carbohydrates are the same. So the first one we're going to talk about is simple carbs. So these are refined carbs like your white bread, your pastries, maybe your processed or sugary snacks. These types of carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, refined carbs, are low in fiber and essential nutrients. They're digested quickly, which means that your blood sugar might spike and lead to a crash. Okay, so that's simple carbohydrates. Again, examples are white bread, pastries, maybe sugary or processed snacks. The second kind of carbohydrates are complex carbs. This is what we want more of. This is your fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains, your brown rice, your oatmeal. Okay, these examples of complex carbs are higher in fiber and nutrients. Therefore, they support our metabolism, they support energy, they often lead to better performance. So we want to be intaking more complex carbohydrates as opposed to simple or refined carbs. Now, this leads into another point that I want to address as we move through all of this series of podcasts and episodes, is that we always want to promote balance and moderation. So should we never ever eat simple carbs? Should we never have a pastry? Absolutely not. There's a time and place for it. And obviously there's always a time and place for complex carbs. We just want to make sure we're having both in moderation and not restricting ourselves from one or the other. We want to keep everything balanced. Okay, so fiber, what's the importance of fiber? So that's in that complex carbs, those fruit, vegetables, whole grains, brown rice, oatmeal. Those examples, those foods are examples of the complex carbs, which are higher in the fiber and the nutrients. So fiber really slows down your digestion, meaning slower glucose release. You have more stable energy and you have less of a crash. So it's going to keep you more at baseline or more consistent than relying on those simple refined carbohydrates. Second point here is glycogen. This is athlete gold, right? So carbs are stored as glycogen in your muscles and your liver. This is the fuel in your tank. This is what powers your performance. And again, no carbs means an empty tank, right? So we want to put those carbs in our system to give our car some energy. How many carbs do we need? This is another question that I get asked often, and the daily recommended intake is anywhere from 45 to 65% of your daily calories should be coming from carbohydrates. But this does not mean only eating bagels, muffins, sugary cereals. Quality here matters. Yes, those are carbohydrates. Those are those simple refined carbs, but we want to be making sure that we're getting really whole food diet, really getting a diversity of fruits and vegetables, giving us different kinds of nutrients, different palettes here. So really making sure that 45 to 65% of our daily calories that are dedicated to carbohydrates are coming from really good sources of carbohydrates, maintaining balance here. Okay, so real life example, breakfast, if we're having a muffin and a coffee, right? That simple, refined carbohydrate with a coffee, we might spike our blood sugar, which will lead to a crash. We might be hungry 30 minutes to an hour later. We might not have very much energy, or that original energy from that coffee might crash, and we won't have that consistent energy that we're looking for. Could lead to being a little more moody, right? So a better alternative is to work in a little bit of protein, a little bit of fiber. We can have oatmeal with some fruit on top, a little bit of peanut butter or nut butter, and there you go. Okay, so really making sure that we keep balance in our diet, but the same foods can work. We just need to balance them. So making sure that we're getting that good source of protein, good source of fiber, really making sure we're highlighting those complex carbohydrates in our diet. So carbohydrates are necessary. They are not the enemy. The type of carbohydrate does matter, and we need carbs to function and perform. They give us the energy we need to get through our day, to really fuel us for our activities. They're essential. We're going to get into debunking myth 2 here. So all sugar is bad. That's myth number 2. This is one everywhere, not just all sugar is bad. Okay, so natural versus added sugars, right? There's 2 different kinds of sugars that we're talking about here, and understanding both will give you the perspective you need to identify why not all sugars are bad. Okay, starting off here with natural sugar. This is found in fruit. It comes with fiber, vitamins, antioxidants. This is like a strawberry, a raspberry. Any of those types of fruits that are naturally sweet are really nutrient dense. So I like to think of it as when I reach up and pick an apple off the tree and I take a bite into it, is it sweet? Yes. Did we take a needle and inject sugar into that fresh apple we just picked off the tree? No. Therefore, it contains a lot of natural sugars that make that item sweet. Alternately, we have added sugars, right? This is often found in processed foods, added during manufacturing. So this could be a Pop-Tart or candy or sugary drinks, right? There's a high sugar content with really low nutrient value. Okay, so this is something that, yes, it's manufactured to have sugars put into the product to make it sweeter. So the key difference here is that natural sugars come with the benefits. They come with more fiber. They come with vitamins, antioxidants, all those really great nutrients that we get from those sources. Added sugars are just energy, and they have very low nutrition or nutrients in them. Okay, so this is a little trick here, a little tip, is look at the food labels, right? Look for added sugars. It tells you sugar is added during the process, right? If it says just sugars, that's what's naturally in that food. So a lot of times I'll get kids that will have a juice box, 100% juice, and they'll turn it over and they'll say, oh my gosh, there's so much sugar in this, I can't have this. Where if you look and dissect the actual labeling on there, it's 100% juice. The ingredients list, it just says apples. And that sugar that they're seeing is just natural sugar that's naturally occurring in apples. Now, when you buy a type of juice that might not be 100% juice, which means that there's other things added to it, and you flip it over and you look at the food label and it says apples and high fructose corn syrup and da-da-da-da-da, and it has a couple other things on that food list, and then you look at the food label and you see sugar, total sugars, and it has a number. Under that, you'll see added sugars, and it has a number and a percent. That means that, yes, it is apple juice, but it's not 100% juice. Apples aren't the only thing in that product, and that means there was something probably added to it to enhance the sweetness of it. So that's the difference between natural sugars and added sugars, and how you can kind of tell the difference by just looking at the product, looking at the food label. So what about no sugar added drinks? This one's a little tricky. Or not just drinks, no sugar added products, right? This one's a little trickier. These products often will contain artificial sweeteners. So it's still sweet because they're chemically made to taste sweet, okay? So a lot of drinks like Coca-Cola, for example, there might be a no sugar added, or Oreos just came out with a no sugar added Oreo. The product itself is still sweet. They're not using the traditional sugar that they use in all their other products. They're using artificial sweeteners that don't technically have to be reported on the sugar label, but when you look at the ingredient label, you'll see other forms of sugar like sucrose or fructose. Those are all different types of sugars that can be added. Okay, so potential downsides could be GI discomfort, bloating. It's not always the most satisfying, and sometimes they don't even taste as good. Some examples of natural sweeteners are honey, maple syrup. They're less processed, but they still do have sugar in them, therefore they still have calories. These examples are just a little bit less processed. 100% maple syrup, fresh, really good quality maple syrup, and again, same thing, really good quality honey. Okay, bottom line here is that sugar isn't inherently bad for you. It's about the source, the amount, and the context, right? So making sure that we're really paying attention to those couple key points. Smart strategy here is just pair your protein, fat, and fiber. This is going to help with better glucose response and more stable energy, right? Those quick sugars, those sugars that you want to have before your game, that's when you want to have that apple, that clementine. You can even have those go-go squeezes. I was just watching the Olympics and gave this talk to a group of kids, and they were watching the women's Olympic game and saw Hillary Knight drinking a go-go squeeze on the bench while she was waiting for her next shift. And I was like, I told you, the natural sugars are really great for a little quick punch of energy before your workout and your activity. So I always keep those stocked in my gym bag, or if you have kids, put them in your hockey bags or sports bags. Again, that's a great little punch of sugar before they get out and doing their activities. Last one here that we're going to debunk, myth number 3, is that all fats are bad. This is our last one. Again, another big myth, but fat is not the enemy here. What actually drives health issues are ultra-processed foods, foods that are really high in sugar, those added sugars, and really low in fiber, and not just fat alone, okay? So there's different types of fats that we're going to kind of walk through here just to give you a little perspective and give you some examples as to what they are. First one we're going to talk about is unsaturated fats. These are found in avocados, nuts, olive oil, fish. Those are just some examples of good sources of unsaturated fats, and that type of fat supports heart health, brain health, inflammation control. It's really, really a good fat for the body, right? Undersaturated fats, we have monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats. The difference is just their makeup of their molecules, but again, those are both unsaturated fats. Typically, unsaturated fats at room temperature will be liquid, if that helps give you a little perspective. Olive oil, avocado oil, both liquid at room temperature. Moving into saturated fats, okay, this one we don't need to necessarily eliminate, but we need to just be mindful and cognizant of this type of fat. This is mostly butters, fattier meats. Again, okay in moderation, and a lot of those foods have other great properties to them. So again, we're not eliminating any of these, but we're just being a little cognizant. Why fat matters? It helps you feel full, so it helps with satiety. It helps with long-term energy source, so we store this energy for later. It helps support your hormone health, regulate your hormones. It helps absorb vitamins like vitamins A, D, E, and K. Those are all fat-soluble vitamins. So the big takeaway here is that fat is higher in calories, yes, but that does not make it a bad food. There's a lot of important properties to fats. And like I talked about, we have the unsaturated fats, which under that we have the poly and mono unsaturated fats. So it's the avocados, the nuts, the seeds, again, olive oil, all your different kinds of fish, salmon, really, really great sources of unsaturated fats. Your saturated fats, again, are still necessary. Just like when we have steak, there's a little bit higher saturated fat than other products, but there's a lot of other great things that are in that piece of steak, iron, that are really, really important as well. So we just want to limit it and be cognizant of it. But again, we're keeping everything in moderation. We're not eliminating any one product. We're not eliminating added sugars altogether, but just being cognizant of what we're putting in our body. So little final takeaway here. Let's wrap it up. And what we've learned today is that carbs don't make you gain weight. They fuel your performance when we consume them in moderation and we consume the good quality carbs that we like, the complex carbs. Second point here, all sugar is not bad, right? We have our natural sugars versus our added sugars. That matters, and we talked about how we can identify that and some examples of both. And last one is fat is not the enemy. It's essential for your body. It's essential to keep your stored energy. It's really important to help absorb vitamins and to keep you full. So fats are necessary. We do need them in our body, and making sure that we're consuming more unsaturated fats than saturated fats, but both are necessary for our daily bodily functions, okay? The real goal here we want to make sure that we're building meals that when you look down, you have a carbohydrate, a protein, and a fat. These 3 items are called macronutrients. Macro means big. Obviously, nutrients are these 3 items here. So carbohydrates, proteins, fats are our macronutrients. So in further sessions, when you hear me talk about macronutrients, those are the 3 I'm talking about. And at most meals, if you can look down and identify one piece of your meal from each of those categories, you have a pretty complete meal in front of you. Okay, we want to focus on whole foods, balance, consistency, making sure we're eating a whole foods diet, prioritizing those great sources of complex carbs, those really good sources of added sugar. We're getting our fruits and our vegetables in to make sure we're getting enough fiber in our diet. And another point here is making sure we're hydrating consistently throughout the day. And again, promoting balance. So if you take one thing away from this episode, nutrition is not about restriction, it's about fueling your body the right way. If you've enjoyed this podcast, share it with your friends, your teammates, your parent friends, your coaches, and stay tuned. We have a couple more episodes coming out in this first series that we're really excited to talk about. And we've got some amazing topics that we're going to be covering on the Warrior Wellness podcast. So let's keep building stronger, smarter athletes, and I'll see you next time.